the rest for anybody who might miss it. Welcome to the monthly meeting, everybody. This will be a nice quick one because it's really just focused on scheduling and some brief announcements. So if everybody could take a quick moment to either scan the QR code to sign in or do the short URL to sign in as well. We'll drop that short URL in the chat too, so we can track your attendance for this. Okay, so quick agenda. Announcements, a little bit of scheduling, and then we're out of here. Parisha.
Yes. So just a quick announcement. So you may be assigned for pediatric doodle. Pediatric doodle is one shift. It's usually scheduled on an outpatient month. And in order to see when you are scheduled for doodle, you have to check your MIN. And so just make sure, even if you are on an outpatient month, that you are not scheduled for doodle, because it's easy to miss it if you're like, oh, I'm on outpatient. The internal medicine resident recognition event is coming up this Saturday. There are MedPeds people who are winning awards, FYI. I know because I saw the spreadsheet. So if you are interested, you should, huge if true, it is true. You should go ahead and attend. And then if you have any photos, pictures that you took from Dr. Dre, I would love to put them up on the Instagram. I want to wait until I have kind of a collection of photos so that I can actually put them up, as opposed to making like multiple posts back to back. And then the last thing that's not on here that I just wanted to mention, I know on the pediatric side, we're having kind of like really high censuses. And then I know on internal medicine, we have a very kind of organized flow chart about the way that things work. So if you're having any issues on pediatrics, if you feel like you're seeing really high censuses, you feel like you're not getting the support that you need, please let me know. Just because I am going to be talking to the pediatrics team next week. And we have been actively talking about kind of what's been going on at Masonic. That's all I've got.
Cool. Thanks for adding that recognition event tomorrow night. I totally forgot about it. And I was like, I know I'm forgetting something in these slides, and that was it. So a couple upcoming announcements, just to, again, to congratulate everybody who matched into fellowship last week. All this has been communicated out, but we wanted to recognize our MedPeds folks who are going on to fellowship next year. So once again, congratulations. Congrats to Hannah for winning the bake-off last Saturday. I'm sorry I missed it. It sounded like it was a great time, and everybody had fun and ate a lot of good stuff. So another new champ added to folklore here in the program. A couple of things that you've probably seen in emails already, but just to remind you, Department of Medicine is looking to sponsor a couple of residents to go to both of these conferences, the LMSA and the SNMA conference. They have a short application form that's due this upcoming Monday, the 12th. You can scan this QR code or do the tiny URL on the screen to take you to that application form. And then they'll be in touch with like the next steps on that. And so those are the dates now, next February for LMSA and then next April for SNMA. And like I said before, this is all being recorded, and I'll send an email to everybody with the link to this after the meeting. So if you miss it, you'll be able to see it again later. And on behalf of Anthony, there's a couple of job opportunity announcements here. He's on service today, so wasn't able to make it, but Abbott Northwestern is looking to hire another MedPeds hospitalist. So any current 3rd or 4th years interested, you can go ahead and contact Nasreen, who's a 2020 grad, I think, or 19. I can't even remember at this point. Again, more information, like the actual job description information, is in this QR code and the short URL, which I will share with you later. And then also, HCMC is looking to add more MedPed providers. So any current 3rd and 4th years, you can reach out to Eric, who just graduated this past June. His information is on the screen there. Or I think Parisha sent out a message about this already today too. So you can always touch base with her and she can connect you as needed.
It was in a text message, so don't look in your emails.
There you go. And then one more from Anthony here is Hudson Hospitals and Clinics are looking to expand their primary care base in Western Wisconsin and are looking to hire multiple med-peds physicians over the next couple of years. Reach out to him if you are interested in exploring that. Like I said, he's on service for the next couple of days. So next Tuesday or Wednesday, I think, is when he's free again, but heads up on that. And then just a couple of upcoming recruitment things. We have interview days next Tuesday and Friday, the following Wednesday, the 21st. And then our final one is coming up on January 10th. So we have 3 more dinners to go. I made this slide yesterday. So if somebody did sign up for the 14th, I haven't added your information yet. But Tuesday, the 20th, it'll be at Ashwini's. And then we added another dinner on Monday, the 9th, to catch anybody who's coming to the January session or hasn't been able to make it yet. So 2 more hosts needed. I will be updating the G calendar information as those hosts are assigned. All right, so the bulk of the meeting, the next, 20 minutes, powering through talking about scheduling for next year. December is usually when we start this kicking off. We started a little bit earlier than our medicine and peds friends just because we have more layers of complexity in getting all the schedule stuff taken care of. So we need to give people extra time to be thinking about this. That doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to be done with all of this in January. It's going to drag out until March, but we want to start the process of thinking about what next year's schedule is going to look like. And then also years beyond that too, if you have like certain things that need to happen in the next year for the following year, et cetera, et cetera. So just a few scheduling reminders. This might be new information to some of you. It probably is. And it could be, I think it's new and it's like, no, we've heard it before. It's just been a year since you've heard it. But there are core requirements for graduation. So we keep track of that in your audit. Like everybody has to do like 4 of those peds requirements and 4 of the medicine requirements, like from the list of 10, all of the inpatient requirements, that sort of thing. So that is tracked by the program. And if you have any questions about it, you can let us know at any time. If you are exploring doing a special elective or a research block next year, there is a special form that goes with that, and that can be found on the hub. You can just search special elective form. There is a scheduling section on the hub if you go directly to that, but I usually just use that, what's it called? Looking glass, I don't know, the search function in the upper right-hand corner to find these kind of things. I think from Erica's standpoint, I feel like it makes more sense to get all of your required stuff out of the way so you can like have more free time in 3rd and 4th years, but it doesn't always work out that way. You might have specific things that you need to do at this time this year so that this thing can happen next year. We can talk about that and figure out what your schedule needs to look like beyond getting all the required stuff for that year, all of the mandatory things for next year, and what other like elective time you have to play with. So just keep thinking about how that will play into scheduling as well. If you are thinking about global health international rotations next year, that's something that you'll want to have those discussions with the global health people first, and then we can put it into your calendar, your schedule, versus just being like, well, I'm going to do this block, and then finding out that they don't have it available that block. Sarah Sponsler is the global medicine coordinator. She's on maternity leave for, I think, until early February. So just be aware that they are covering her while she's out, but there might be just a delay in hearing back from her. So just start those conversations now if you haven't already, and get in touch with the chiefs as well if you have questions on that side of things. And then just general reminders, review your PTO information. Think about, when you do have important stretches of PTO, you can indicate that in the survey and let us know that you really need to be off at this particular time, backup free, et cetera, et cetera. And then we'll try to honor that as best we can. If we need to do some sort of switches or other kind of swaps, we will take that into consideration. There are, as you know, there are a handful of required rotations each year, some of which have limited PTO availability. So if I need to be off in May, we should really not be putting you like on adolescent during the time or something like that. All of the rotation descriptions that we are aware of are linked in the categorical like scheduling information. So links to the PEDS Google site, and then also all of the folders in Google Drive that medicine has provided us with rotation descriptions for each site. So you can look at what their what the rotation descriptions are, but also like what any like PTO and scheduling kind of information that might be important for you to be considering when making any special requests for your schedule. And then just, talk to us if you have any questions. It can be complicated. I want you to have as much like voice and choice in this as much as we can, so that I'm not just like picking stuff for you, because I will pick wrong. And I would much rather you tell me what you want to do and try to make it happen than be like, here's what I did for you, and then find out that it's like a disaster after the fact. So newish for the year, not really anything changing, but I found it really helpful to have Zoom chats with you if you want to, about what you did in the survey and kind of mapping out your year, especially for the fourth years, the rising fourth years that have so many open blocks. Like, I really will appreciate you kind of guiding me in this journey together, so that we make your schedule like super helpful and actually what you want it to be as much as we can. Nothing major changing for next year. There's some talk possibly about some of the inpatient stuff on the PED sides being modified slightly, but it's not changing your requirements. It just might be some of the team structures and things happening like on the color teams at the U. So, but that's still kind of in the background being talked about, and nothing is finalized yet. And then anything that does change, we'll let you know, and we'll also update it on the hub in the scheduling section. So starting with the rising fourth years, things to know, nothing's major is changing for next year. We balance you out by the time you graduate. So you end up with your 26 PEDS blocks and your 26 medicine blocks. So that's a lot of what our discussion is going to be when we meet, is just making sure that we look at like what you've done so far, and then like how many you need next year. So whether it's like 8 PEDS and 5 medicine or whatever the case might be. There is much more flexibility, as you know, for fourth year, since you only have 4 electives, as long as you don't, 4 inpatient blocks, 2 medicine and 2 PEDS, as long as nothing has been deferred from previous years. So that gives us a lot more wiggle room and ways to figure out how to make your schedule really work for you. So you'll see all the required rotations. This is all on the hub as well. Excuse me. These all will happen. And then developmental disabilities is a requirement, but it is not required that we split it with the MedPeds hospitalist rotation. So if we want to do something else for those 2 weeks, we certainly can. And then I should also mention that this ambulatory or MedPed hospitalist choice for the other like required PEDS block, again, it's not required per se. It's not an ACGME requirement. It's really just like an encouraged suggestion by the program. If it works better to do something else, we can certainly do that. But you will have your 2 gen wards blocks on the medicine inpatient side, your UED on the PEDS inpatient side, and then the purple team for PEDS inpatient, purple or violet, depending on like how all of the PEDS blocks and super block work out. And then again, medicine, you'll split Beck and geriatrics. Or another 2-week block. You'll do Beck for sure. You'll do geriatrics too as well. We'll try to put them together just to make it easy, but it doesn't always work out that way. We'll figure it out. Any questions from rising fourth years?
I have a question, Erica.
Yeah.
What's the consensus on splitting inpatient blocks? Has that changed at all, or is it still no?
As of right now, it's still going to be, unless it's like a major like life event situation that we need to plan for, it's not going to be a kind of, we can do anything. If there are certain like wedding, families, scenarios, et cetera, that we need to do a couple of split blocks for people, we can explore it, but it's not, unfortunately, it doesn't look like it's going to be, let's go ahead and map out what's going to work best for all 10 of you. Any other rising fourth year questions? All right, hearing nothing. Third years, rising third years. This is your first time to kind of have a little bit more flexibility. Again, no major changes for requirements for third year next year. Your audits all show your templated schedule. The inpatient months on your templated schedule will not change. So if it's medicine inpatient, it will remain medicine inpatient unless you do a swap with somebody. However, if it's templated on your schedule to be medicine outpatient, but you really need it to be a peds outpatient month, it can be changed. We can change the order of the outpatient. We just can't change the order of the inpatient. And that's only for third and fourth years. So we'll start balancing you out in third year as best we can, so that we're not doing like 10 blocks of medicine fourth year or some, long stretch like that. The third and fourth years, however, do not have that requirement of doing 3 categorical blocks in a row. We can go back and forth if need be, if that is what needs to happen to make certain electives happen. And then you see all the required rotations for next year will remain the same for the rising third years. The 3 medicine inpatient, one of which is ICU, AHCC for 2 blocks, and those are like blocks 1 and 3, 2 and 4, 5 and 7, etc. It's all kind of laid out in the survey, so you can let us know if there's a certain time you'd like to do AHCC. We can try to make it work, but it has to be those 2 consecutive blocks like that. Pediatrics, again, you'll have 3 inpatient, your children's ED, a Hennepin month, and then a children's gen wards month. And then pediatrics outpatient for a third year, it should just say 2. It's adolescent and Beck, not 3. So you'll have the 2 required peds electives taken care of by those, and then everything else will fill based on what you need to balance to start to balance better for years 3 and 4. Some of you are going to be a little bit peds heavy after years 1 and 2. Some are medicine. So by year 3, it might be like a 8 peds, 5 medicine, or vice versa, just to keep things kind of even as best we can. But we don't have to stay totally even. We just want to make sure you get everything you need by 4th year. So rising third years, any questions on this?
What's AHCC?
That is the clinic immersion month at Regions. What does it stand for again? Ambulatory healthcare center, I think. So it's yeah, you go.
Yeah, it's like the Health Partners immersion. So it's inpatient, and it's a combination of like clinic where you're working in Health Partners clinic, and then you're also spending time in like subspecialty places like ophthalmology or ENT. So it's a good exposure to like ambulatory stuff.
And I believe it helps us fulfill one of the ACGME requirements too for ambulatory numbers. So that's why it's a required rotation during third year.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions in the chat?
No, not that you need to address. They
Okay.
actually were, yeah.
All right, well then I'll just scooch on to the rising second years. So this is your first time hearing this, so welcome. This year is going to be, as it says at the top here, a greater emphasis on senioring rotations throughout the year. So you'll end on whatever categorical medicine or peds, and then you'll start block 1 on the same thing so that you're rolling right into that senioring. And then it kind of goes back and forth between inpatient, outpatient. Everybody ends block 13 on an inpatient block. And depending on how your first year worked with the number of inpatient you had, a couple of you will have like a back-to-back inpatient stretch in second year, but not everybody. So that's all in your template. So if you have any questions, let me know, and we'll walk through it as well when we have our little chats. But you have all of your requirements laid out on this screen. Again, they're on the hub too. There'll be 3 gen wards for medicine, one of which will be scheduled at Regions. Beck is a required medicine elective during second year, so it counts as a medicine block. So it's a full block, not a split block. Your peds inpatient will be 4. So you'll have children's gen wards, NICU and PICU at the U, and then a color team at the U. And then your required peds elective for second year is DBP. And I should mention both adolescent and DBP, we schedule them second year for DBP, third year for adolescent. It's not an ACGME requirement that it happens during either of those years. It just has to happen by graduation. So we just place it in the schedule this way. However, if there's conflicts that come up, competition for spots with PEDS residents, because they're also, have to do those required rotations, we can defer it to the next year so that you could do a different elective if it is only available at the same time. Whatever the case might be, we can talk about it, we can work it through. So if we defer it, then it'll just take up another block next year or your fourth year. So just keep that in mind. But it is something that we can do if that is what needs to happen. And then none of your elective blocks will change. So if it's a medicine elective, it will remain a medicine elective. We can't flip it to a PEDS elective unless it's like a coverage issue or some like one-off situation. It's only third and fourth year that we can make that flip from a medicine elective to a PEDS elective if that's what needs to work for you. So that's the kind of like the quick overview of second year, rising second year information. Any questions from the rising second years while we are on the Zoom?
Erica, is there PTO limitations around like DBP?
DBP is one that's a 5 PTO max, as is adolescent. So we'll just have to, keep that in mind. Like when you do have a long stretch of PTO, we'll just need to make sure we don't put you on adolescent during that time or DBP.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Back in your second and third year, because it's a full block, you can take 10 days of PTO. That's not a problem. Any other questions? I told you we're going to blow through this really quickly. So just to give you like a little taste of it, and then you'll get more information. Whoops. Wrong button. More information coming up soon. So
Erica, can I ask, sorry,
yeah.
can I ask a quick
Go ahead.
question about the second year one, which I know I'm currently in my second year, but it does say, so is this like non-purple color team? Is there any like ACGME requirement of that? Because I know a couple of us were put on a purple or violet color team this year, despite us like not being supposed to, but is that okay? Like, or do we need to then?
But it's fine. It's just that it's always just been, we've always just said non-purple color team. It probably just needs to be updated on the slide, quite honestly, but that's totally fine. And it has happened in the past where second years ended up on purple because that's just the way that the whole grid came together with all the PEDS people and whatnot. So with these discussions about the color teams changing slightly, it will continue to be that you'll end up on some sort of color team, but really it's the fourth years are the ones that are supposed to be doing purple or violet dedicated for fourth years only. And if you get slipped into it earlier, that's totally fine too.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. I did talk to pediatrics about this. And so Erica's absolutely right. This should not change your schedule overall.
So how this is going to work with your preferences is the week of the 19th, I'll send each class an email saying your audits are ready to go. They're up to date. Start looking. And you'll get links on like all the stuff to be thinking about, how to look up what the PTO things are, what the rotation descriptions are, whatever information that you might be interested in doing like your research on, you'll get a link for it. And then it's going to take a little while just to go through those audits because they're not automated. So it'll be a lot of back and forth looking at like what you did, clicking this, what you did, clicking that sort of thing. And you'll also get a link to the survey, which is just a quick Google form survey saying, who am I? What year am I going to be next year? What are my big important dates coming up? Here are like the 3 things I really want to do next year. And then also any other information that you want to let me know. I'd really like to go to Children's during the winter because I live in St. Paul and I don't want to drive in winter traffic. Whatever the case might be, put it in there. I'll also have information in the emails about setting up Zoom check-ins with me. Trying not to do that until January, just because with recruitment and the holiday like break and all that stuff coming up, it's just kind of pointless to not even do it until January. But I'd love to start chatting with you in January about what your schedule is going to look like next year so that we can make it what it should be so that you're happy, we're happy, and it's not like this like flurry of activity. There will be things that will change based on what we find out from rotations saying like, sorry, we can't do it this block after all. That always happens. But the more the things that we can try to do to prevent other changes would be really helpful. So I find having these little chats has been a good improvement to the process. At least I think. It could be totally wrong, but you know, I'm going to still do it next year. The Google form that you do get, you can update your responses at any time. And it will just it'll give me like one record of what you want to do. And then when we have our talk, we'll look at the calendar, we'll look at your schedule and start plotting things into it. And then if at any point you have questions, you just shoot me an email. I know there are a handful of questions about schedules that I have sitting in my inbox about next year, like Taylor, for example. I saw it. I will get you a response next week. I think it's going to be okay. In fact, it's going to be okay. And then the survey will remain open through the end of January. Then February is when like we'll start really like kind of locking into it and getting things on there. And February, it usually lines up too with when medicine and peds both start working on their schedules as well, just because they have more people to wait for responses and clarification and all that stuff. So that's where we're at with that. And then the last thing is just, you know, there's always problems with scheduling. We know, we tried to avoid it. We want to just be open and transparent and make sure that if you have things, you let us know, the good, the bad, the ugly, so that we can hopefully make next year great. And also your subsequent years so that you get all you need to do when you need to do it, when you want to do it. And that really is all I have to say about scheduling. Any questions? All right. Well, that's all the slides that I had.
Erica, it is 4:29 and
Oh my
your
God.
slide said 4:30. Bye.
Okay, well, on that note, everybody, we have 40 seconds. Any further discussion on anything?
I was just impressed at your ability to run on time. That was awesome.
Like I said, this is really meant to be just a taste, a preview, whatever. Look for the email the week of the 19th with more information about what to expect with the survey. You can look at what's on the hub right now. If you just look at the scheduling section, see what we did for this year. It's not going to change too much. Just a lot of the dates are going to be changing, obviously. And then set up times to meet. My meeting like appointment thing is in my email signature in my email, or there's also like the SAR section on the hub that has how to do meetings with any of us via Zoom. So that's really it. All right, well, hearing no further discussion and that it's 4:30 on a Friday afternoon and we've all been on Zoom or at whatever all day, let's call it quits. Have a good weekend, everybody, and we'll see you whenever the next time is.